Welcome, mere mortalites, to another round of the Mere Mortals Musings. You have Kyron here.
Got one as well.
And we are here on the 27th of December, 2023. This is our last episode of the year in terms of us doing it live, but we do have some conversations coming up very shortly. We're just discussing that beforehand, and if you tuned into the previous episode, you know all about that.
And people in the socials, they've been sending through some messages, some eyeballs, some can't wait.
Yeah, I did see that.
Plenty coming, plenty coming.
So a Musings episode is where we dive deeper into a particular topic. We try and bring practical advice, philosophy in a broader context, and then bring it down to actual things that are actionable. And I picked today's episode, and topics for me usually just come from if I've done something new in my life or something interesting. And I have done something new. I've got it here, my body composition scan.
InBody.
InBody.
Body composition analyzers.
So this was just at my gym, and it was like $25. You step on this machine. They grease your hands and feet with some moisture to make you all greasy and slippery, and then they just send some electrical signals through your body. And through that, they're able to determine your body composition in terms of fat and muscle. That's basically all it does. It gives you some very, very dodgy results of, what are those? What does that say? They're measurements of circumference or something?
Yeah, segmental
circumference. And basically, I'm jacked according to that because all of those numbers, so I do not have a... What is that, a 40.1 centimeter neck? No, that's about a centimeter or two too much. Chest, 102.8 centimeters. No, that's about 3 centimeters too much.
Karen knows these numbers very well. We'll probably get into it because you do track these numbers already in your lifestyle, so you kind of are able to see it. Just a couple of other, I'll look at it just quickly as well, just to give some people some view as to what is in these if you haven't done an InBody as well.
I'll bring it up on the screen as
if you've got a good podcast out there, player, you can also see this as an image. Visceral fat levels, you get like a total InBody score out of 100, which you can go over 100 points, which I believe I've done once with this. So because it says a muscular person go over 100, that doesn't make any sense to me, but whatever. And then, in generality, a lot of these things are leaning towards giving you an analysis of muscle to fat ratio, density, I guess, of your bones versus the amount of other mass like jelly in there as well.
Jelly. Okay.
There's I used to really look into these things to be like, oh yeah, the ECW ratio and the PBF ratio and the SMM skeletal muscle mass. In any case, there's lots of numbers that gives you, I guess, some idea as to maybe where you're currently sitting. So you got this done because it was free. Or did you pay? You paid for it.
25 buckaroos for it, mate.
You pay? Why? Why did you want to?
So that's maybe a good place to just.
Why would you? Okay, kick it off at that point. Why would you go and analyze and get some numbers for your body in this way?
So I've never really done this before, a body composition scan, which is kind of funny because I do, as you mentioned, I do like tracking and keeping sort of data and things like this. And so this episode, just by the way, is probably it's going to be about changing your body, essentially. So getting stronger, is getting stronger changing your body? What do the results say? Okay. What are some things that perhaps we track, and maybe even just some personal observations and things like that. So yeah, you know what? The reason I got for this one was just straight up kind of FOMO. A lot of my friends had done them before, and whenever they got them, they'd post it to our little group chat and would be all like analyzing. It's like, oh, good job, Charlie. You've got this amount of body fat percentage. Okay.
I laughed then, folks, because I was trying to determine if this was like our personal group chat or there's another group chat, because it would be very different results in the motivation that people would comment back. In our group, we'd probably just slam each other with whatever the score was, slam. Others,
100%.
More motivational and supporting nature.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct. So, I just saw it there. It was one of the last times I'd be at this gym. I just went, might as well do it. Sure. Something interesting. Do I put any... And I believe these are reasonably accurate as well. So the most accurate is to get a DEXA body scan. That's where you lie in some sort of MRI type tube machine thing, and it whirls around you and does all fancy things. This one, just as I said, measures electrical impulses through your body, but apparently it's 97% accurate. I don't know if that meant there's therefore a 3% change off of the total numbers, or if it's a 3% change off the number here. So would my body fat on here, it says it was 7.4%. I don't know if a 3% difference means it could be 10% or it could be 4.4%, or if it's, 3% of 7.4, which would be, a tiny 7.6 or something like that. So I don't know how accurate between those two is.
Being a nihilistic self here in this particular one, I reckon they can say that they're 97% accurate by using kind of like a power of averages on, hey, but if you sum up, like, let's say if you could say exactly what yours is, and in one area deviates by 20%, another one deviates by 15%, but the other one is 1%, 1%, 2% because they're easier to measure. The measurements. You could say, well, collectively, it's only 3% difference. But some of the really key ones might be like quite wildly off. But yeah, okay. In any case, it's more accurate than sometimes going down like calipers, right? Something like that.
Notoriously bad for this, yeah. So just for those, it's still on your screen, so I'll just run through it really quickly. Male, gender, age 31. It's really accurate. The most important things were my weight, 75 kgs. Of that, it's 39.4 kgs skeletal muscle mass.
Skeletal muscle mass.
And so therefore, with a 7.4% body fat, I should have 5.5 kilos on me. BMI, actually in the normal range, 22.2. Nice. There you go. I'm pretty sure I was under for a fair while, which is weird. I don't know if something's changed with that, with those numbers, because I'm pretty sure I remember being way closer to the under, as in like BMI anorexic sort of.
BMI should just be, it's just
it's just height divided by
overweight.
Weight, right? So it's not divided by muscle mass or anything like that with these. Anyway, then it just goes into breakdowns. I don't know why people would maybe... Here's a question. Would you ever find it interesting to know your right arm, how many kilos in your right arm or your left arm? My right arm is significantly stronger, so much that I am slightly unbalanced. And then I'm also slightly unbalanced in my upper to lower body.
Oh, yeah, I did see that too.
And we can get into a little bit. Right leg and left leg are the same in terms of like 10.6 kgs. Do you think there's any benefit to knowing these sorts of things? Because you've done this yourself, right?
And yeah, I have. So I've done it. I've done this twice in my life. One time I did it when I felt I was strong, but definitely had a lot of body fat on me.
Okay.
And I remember doing this particular one and seeing that, hey, there's a lot of muscle there, but there was also a lot of fat that had been built up over that time. Okay. I know that the most recent time I did it.
How old were you? Do you think you were?
Would have been 23, 24 years old.
Yep.
And then the latest time that I did it would have been pre-COVID, maybe 2019, 2018. And I did it because it was freely available out of the most oddest places. I was actually at a workplace, and downstairs at the lobby, they had this thing set up as doing it free for everyone who was in the building. I was like, okay, I'll just do it. Why not? Then obviously the numbers were different, but each time that I'd done it, and looking at those numbers, and I guess what I would consider, what is beneficial, because some of the other things that you didn't read out, right, which are like, research parameters, intracellular water, extracellular water,
okay,
the body cell mass, bone mineral content. Good to see those numbers like in the moment, but unless you're tracking them in a quite particular way and optimizing for something, who cares? Like those numbers these all might as well say 99 and it wouldn't matter, right? That doesn't matter what it's actually saying. So I did them out of interest. Yes, to be within.
How many did you do?
I've done it twice.
Twice, yeah. Because the how they make their money, these things, is you'll see on the very bottom, there's a big section here where there's nothing in it. You're like, what's the deal with that? And that's because they want you to go back and
go over the time.
And then you can do comparisons. And that's kind of like how these guys make their money.
Of course.
One of these machines, a friend of mine owns one. I believe he told me it was 30 grand to buy. So, that's the guy who
make the money somehow.
The guy who was doing it that was his full-time gig. He'd just go to gyms and do these things. So
sure.
Yeah, that's kind of how they make the money. And yeah, that's the kind of point of all of these things. Like if you're looking at your intracellular water, maybe it's useful if you're doing it over 5 times a year and you're tracking this for years at a time. But
yeah, exactly. I mean, did you read this at all and go, wow, I'm going to change something?
No, you know what? I got this and I was like, wow, I just paid $25 to find out I've got a 7.4% body fat. That's all I took from this.
Yep.
That's the only fucking thing. Because everything else I kind of knew beforehand, which can maybe go into... I suppose some of like the science and stats.
Yeah, well, and that's what I was going to get into, right? So me looking at this, and look, I've gotten really into this in the past, pulled back away. So some of my knowledge I feel like has degraded over time, but some of it's stuck around. The key ones when I'm looking at all these things, especially if I was going to do it again, it's skeletal muscle mass. That's a big one, right? Primarily, and I'm looking this now at the optimizing for a longevity / great efficiency from an energy utilization / keeping yourself lean. Why? For me, I go, okay, some of the numbers, why I would care to do body composition or care about body composition. Hey, I want a high skeletal muscle mass. Why? Some parts of it has been attributed to longevity, just plain and simple. If you're strong, got good muscles, yes, they're going to, everyone's going to deteriorate over time as you age and goes down. But if you start at a higher level, well, it's going to degrade down at the same relative rate with age with most people, and you're going to have more when you're older. Simple as that. So, could you basically just stand up or do a jump when you're 100 years old? Kind of linked to how much muscle mass you have at some point at the beginning.
Yeah.
Some of those numbers.
Interesting.
Same thing kind of plays along with, obviously, body fat in the, specifically the amount of fat that you have or floating fat in the moment. Probably healthier to have less of that. Depends on what you optimize for. So one of the things, and obviously I haven't done this specifically, but if you're trying to do really long distance swimming, right, open ocean, you don't want to have low body fat. So some of these things, like always, I feel like you have to optimize to, well, what the hell are you carrying it for?
Because it keeps you warm, fat, or something like that?
One, warm, which I guess is more superficial, I guess I would say. 2, buoyancy. More fat is a little bit more buoyant in comparison to muscle. So if your percentage is, you're more percentage-wise heavier, or your weight comes from the muscle versus fat and other things, you're going to...
I sink.
Sink.
I sink in pools.
You would sink because you've got less amount of fat. So there's that. Obviously, there's other densities that come into play with it. However, the third one is you're going to run out of energy real quick with just pure muscle as opposed to a lot of other fat. It isn't, too surprising that when you see, bigger people, although I don't know how often I've seen this personally. I've heard about it where you might have like a long run or some survival thing. And usually people who make it the longest isn't like the super fit people, because the super fit, super muscular, shredded people, they need a lot more energy to keep that going and processing the engine, versus someone with a lot more fat mass that can just use up all that energy that they kind of have stored in themselves to just continue on living. So yeah, that can also work out.
The videos I've seen of people doing ultra marathons, they are, yes, skinny just by and large, but from like the glimpses you see, it's not like I would say they're super lean either. So I could kind of imagine where you'd want to have that just bit of, it's the same thing as like ketosis, right? Where it's just when you're in ketosis, you're burning fat instead of protein and carbs and things like that. And so, a little bit, mostly so you're not burning carbs in ketosis. And that's essentially what you're doing if you're just like fasting, i.e. doing a really long swim or a really long run. You're not particularly eating.
Yeah, and then the only other thing I guess in here, and talking about more, I guess it's what I was saying, the fat-free mass, which is just basically your weight minus the fat, or the body fat percentage. I guess it's rated in a different way. But the fat-free mass is, I guess, much more of a... if you're looking at it from a perspective of, okay, I want to be muscular, or feel, the weight, again, the percentage of weight to be much more on the muscle versus fat, you might say the fat-free muscle levels or ratios are important for, okay, how lean I keep myself in a energy usage perspective. All of the other segmental lean analysis, I reckon the biggest contributors to people paying for these things are bodybuilders or fitness people.
I want to talk about bodybuilding especially, but maybe
and
a
so,
little bit later,
when it says right arm, left arm, trunk, right leg, absolutely, I could see it here being like, okay, well, you'd want to make sure that the size is the same and the circumference. Okay, I can see the right arm slightly different to the left arm. Oh my God, I've got to make this the same. So from all those perspectives, I can see why it would be useful. From a personal perspective. So let me ask you directly the question. Body composition, do you think about it much day to day, week to week, year to year as you go about talking about it or influencing anything that you ultimately do?
A little bit, a tiny little bit. And I've had this graph up on the screen and you'll see it's my body weight and waist. And this is probably the two things that I've actually bothered tracking and somewhat cared about. And I've done this from gym week 208 onwards, so that was about 4 years. For those who can view
it, the light blue is the
light blue is the waist, and so I've just got kilograms or centimeters on the side, on the y-axis, and then x-axis is just gym weeks, how long I've been doing this for. So
for those who are just audio only at the moment.
So this will be on your, you should have good chapters.
Go have a look at the good chapter.
Basically, it's just showing two area. I just chose the nicest looking things, to be honest, which was just a area graph. So just showing a line graph with all the area underneath it shaded, essentially. And I've got the weight and waist, and so my weight has always hovered around this kind of between 70 to 80 range. Basically, I think there's this one little point where it touches above 80, and then one little point where it gets to right near 70. And then my waist has always been hovering around this kind of 75 to 80 to 83 sort of range. And I think what's just interesting about this was the only reason I found this useful was it kind of gave me some data on what was happening when I was doing all my eating challenges and just how I've messed around with food over my whole kind of exercise career, if you want to call it that. And it's just kind of interesting. You'll see periods where I went really lean. This was right when I started recording it, and this was particularly why I was trying to do it, because I was trying to get as lean as possible. This is actually right on this date here, so that would have been around mid 2017. I really wish I'd done the body scan then, because man, there was this one time where I was on the toilet and I was eating 1,600 calories a day, which is pretty small for me because I'm generally around 2,700. I was on the toilet and I went leaned across to get a piece of toilet paper.
Yep.
And I caught sight of my own serratus, and man, it was just popping out. And so it's basically the ribs are underneath just above your obliques. And I was just holy fuck, I'm so lean. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Now, plenty of terrible things from getting that lean, but maybe I'll talk about that later. But yeah, that was just the interesting thing I found from this. So you can see periods where I've been I'll try and gain some more muscle, and my weight and waist jump up, and they generally follow a line with each other. So that's probably the most interesting thing. And my I did achieve a period where I achieved every girl's dream, which was 0 kgs. And this was when I was traveling through Latin America, and I just didn't have access to a scale, so I wasn't measuring any of that then. And then the other thing that I have tracked over time is just some general stuff related to here we go, biceps, neck, waist, and chest. And I do this once a week on a Monday, and honestly, it's the most boringest data you'll ever see. So it's basically essentially just a straight line with some minor variations going across of, my chest is always staying around that 98 range. My waist is always around, I talked about that just before. Biceps and chest and neck, are always those numbers I mentioned before. They're always just kind of hovering around. So honestly, today, looking at this, I'm I might just stop doing them. It's just once a week. I'm not sure there's any point capturing this anymore. Did I know that my right arm was bigger than my left? Yes, it's bigger by a centimeter because I've captured this for a while for years now. I've known that. So once again, doing the body scan was kind of it was fun, but I don't know. There's not that much that really when I look at something like this, the body change over time, all I go is like, wow, it's basically the same. Like, I have not altered my genetics. My neck, my biceps, my waist, and my chest, they're all around the same sort of level. So, you know, what, and you know, I went home yesterday. I had to see my dad, see my family, and we were doing like some busy work, and Dad had his shirt off for a little bit. And I was just looking at it, and I'm like, you know, it doesn't matter. None of this matters. I'm going to look like him eventually. So like, what's the point of all this? So do you track any of your particular measurements?
So
that you do?
Never have I tracked things like neck, bicep, leg size to anything more than a few touch points here and there. Weight was something that I remember tracking for a certain amount of time. At the same time, I was doing a lot of calories many years ago. That's also gone away. What even to, well, that's not really body composition. Like sleep is the only thing that kind of remains now where I do track it much more heavily. But we're talking body composition specifically. I don't think there's anything that I track it anymore. Yeah. There's no weight per se, although sometimes I'll jump on the scale at the gym and be like, okay, cool, I'm still hovering about 88.9 kilos. Cool. I don't think I'm not moving away from that realistically too far from that. No, that's fine. Yeah, body composition wise, in the numbers that we just talked about, that's definitely gone to the wayside.
What about during the period where perhaps you were most interested in your body composition, which was when you were bodybuilding?
Yeah, during those times,
competing.
Weight, maybe on the weekly basis, but still checking off arm size, leg size, neck size, calf size. Again, that was just more of a point in time, usually at the beginning of, say, like a 12-week training cycle, and at the end of it, just to see some differentiations. So
when were you doing bodybuilding?
2016.
So just 1 year?
Yeah, well, I would say like I'd been bodybuilding training before then.
Yeah.
But I guess
that was the
2016 was like the year, like, okay, I'm really doing this.
Yeah.
And that year, I'd still say that while I was taking measurements, and I could probably go and find them as well, it wasn't as consecutive and collective as you've got there for sure. And looking at it back now, because I guess I was thinking, yes, it really does matter what you're optimizing for. If you're a bodybuilder or you need to have symmetry with your body, or there's something else in relation to that you really need to be on track with, doing that sort of stuff and looking at it and being able to reflect to then maybe replicate later down the track. So if for whatever reason 2025 comes along and, you know, hey, I want to get back to bodybuilding and I want to have a great symmetry, well, it would be awesome to be able to track and see some information, or know, okay, I need to look at my weight on a daily basis or a weekly basis. I need to check my circumference of my arms every week just to make sure that I'm progressing on the right path, something to that effect. I don't see that happening, and so I don't see myself needing to get on the path of that level of verification body composition. However, body composition, I guess, also does, we're talking a lot about it because we saw those percentages of fat-free mass index and the body fat and your skeletal muscle mass. I've wanted to do this since last year. Didn't really get around to doing it. But body composition also includes bottom right numbers, percentages of iron level, testosterone levels, all of that. I will still group that within the body composition. I think I want to...
Yeah, I'd put that as more a health thing.
Maybe a health thing. Even skeletal muscle mass and a few of these other things, I would want to go and get those checked out in some more regular cadence, although for now, honestly, maybe like a yearly basis, but at least to have a progression more so from a longevity, health, not a right here, right now, visual aspect to the body composition.
Yeah.
I guess I would say.
Yep. Sounds good. Let's talk more about bodybuilding after we do some Boostagrams.
Okay. Let's do some boosts.
So Boostagram, for those who are tuning in, is where we acknowledge some people who've helped to support the show in a monetary form, and they've managed to send in a message at the same time. So if you're on one of those podcasting 2.0 apps where you can see things like the chapter images, like you can get the transcript so you can search back and forth, like in the future you'll be seeing us live on there. That's where we ask that you go and send in a message, and we had a couple people this week who did so.
Absolutely. Now, I haven't seen the Dave Jones one come through for a while.
Yeah, no, neither. I'm not sure if it's still rocking on or
maybe not. I don't know. But Dave, if you're out there listening, just be aware. Be aware. We got one from Petar. Near zero post-production is the way to go. I tune in to hear honest opinions, not perfect editing. 7,777 sats sent using Fountain.
Big striper boost there. Thank you, Petar.
Thank you very much, Petar. And I guess I was more so in relation to us talking about changes and thoughts into the future of the podcast as well.
Yeah. I mean, what the interesting thing there was he didn't say he really enjoyed having it quick. He just enjoyed having it non-edited. So that this is where I prefer to get them out sooner. That's just a thing for me because I know my experience of using apps and boosting into people it's annoying when you miss it, and then you know, if someone joins, sends in a message and we don't get it to this next one, I could see that being a turn off because that's what I've done for some people.
Sure.
If they'd read it out the next episode, a way greater likelihood I would have hung around.
Continue to tune in.
So yeah, that's kind of my reason for wanting to get it out sooner. But yeah, you've got to find that balance. I think our quality in terms of just being able to record live it's essentially the same thing. It's not like we're doing more. I've got my filters on when I release it, so it slightly reduces the echo a bit, slightly bumps up a little bit, gets rid of a bit of background noise. But other than that,
yeah, it is pretty.
You're hearing what I don't add any filters to our voice. You know, after all these years, it's actually like Juan's voice is like, hi.
Yeah, when you actually meet me in person, it's like, whoa, what the hell? Actually, speaking of that though, I've been thinking of doing some heavy post production editing on some of the book review stuff whenever I read quotes to potentially change my voice to more of a like husky, deep voice for a particular quoting or something to that effect. We'll see. But thank you very much,
we came for that.
Peter, for that. We got Sir TJ the Wrathful. He says, I think whatever you guys do, try with your shows. Keep doing what you're passionate about in your open-minded, honest way. V for V, books, fitness, etc. Have you guys ever read the same book and did a joint review discussion on it? Just spitballing here. Anyways, I enjoy the show. Thank you for your courage. That's 2,222 sats.
Big round
using
quack.
Guru.
Thank you. So
Thank you,
TJ, so
Wrathful.
The episode after this is where I'll release his interview. I've been slammed with Christmas stuff, so didn't release it as soon as I would have liked, but that's okay. No, I don't think Juan and I have never read the same book.
Oh, we definitely have read the same book. But I think I've actually
read Man's Search for Meaning before, but we've never done a joint.
1984.
Yeah. I mean, there's not that many, to be honest.
You know what's interesting? There's actually a lot of books which I'm not reading because you've read them now, and I've listened to your book review. So I'm kind of like, I've listened to your book review.
Treasure Island is one where you did a book review on it, and so I was like, I might get to this one day.
Yeah, but it's not exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting in that way.
So yeah, that's part of the reason why we haven't read as many. Our tastes do differ. You know, Juan reads a lot of like Ryan Holiday. I know you've got some more fitness.
I would say
books
mine's new age, Karen's old age.
Yeah, pretty
simple,
good.
pretty simple as that. Similar topics and themes. Mine's new age, yours old age, in terms of when it was produced.
Yeah, definitely.
And we have
Thanks
one.
For that, TJ.
Thank you, TJ, and Cole McCormick. I might do a hybrid model for my conversation as well. Video is hard to be consistent with. Squadcast records both speakers, native webcam video, and gives you those files with the sound mixed. Better than Riverside, I was told. 3,333 sats. So using Fountain.
A lot of threes there. Thank you, Cole. So that's Cole, host of the America Plus podcast. I'll also be chatting with him pretty soon.
Cool.
And man, he's so one thing I do want to call out for him is he's got this. He's been working on this. What would I call it? Like a video, because he's a sort of videographer, lives in LA, does acting, does voice acting on the
He does indeed,
reviews.
yeah. Good voice actor. Yeah. I like it.
It's a great addition to the show.
It's good. It's good. Cole, I have been enjoying listening to the cameos? Yeah. The cameos you play in the quotes. It's good.
Yeah, he does a good job. I've actually started picking some ones where I think it's like, I think he'll be able to read this out well. You know, it's something where he'll actually be able to do a good job for this. Yeah. And he's just released, I saw it, it's such a tease. When I did my Twitter post, it was for Magic Mushroom Fun Time. His what would I call it? The video, Cole McCormick experience, and he's added some like value for value music in there. He's used a lot of AI to create this short film. And I saw it pop up on my feed, and I was like, shit, I won't have time to watch. I won't have time to watch it before.
But it's a good shout out. It's a good shout out for him to.
This is it.
If you want to check it out as well, what's called McCormick's Twitter X handle?
Cole McCormick 1.
There you go. Yeah. Same as the Boost name as well.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you very much for that, Cole. And just in terms of differences like Squadcast and Riverside, I was pretty particular when I chose Riverside. It was the one that allowed us to do the live things onto YouTube and record, and it had transcripts at that time I thought were important, and then I realized I've had this in Premiere Pro for the years and I didn't even realize. And speaking of, we don't really use Premiere Pro much anymore. Have you?
I use it heaps.
You're using it now?
I use it heaps.
Okay, all right, sweet, cool. Glad we're getting some because I'm not. And that's our boost there. Thank you very much, everyone. If you want to participate in this same experience, getting a new podcasting app is good. One like Fountain. Podfans has changed its name to True Fans now.
True okay.
Fans, kind of like the Kevin Kelly 1,000 True Fans.
Oh, yeah.
That was the inspiration for that.
Cool.
So, just a little name change there if you heard. And this is where I was like, if you go onto our website, mereimmortalspodcast.com/support, tells you exactly how to boost in. I've even got a little QR code there /link if you want to get some sats for the first time. Try out a Lightning wallet, all those difficult things. And there's a video on there, which I've done of a rundown of the 8 podcasting apps where you can do this. And as I did it, I knew like, this is going to be out of date so soon. And sure enough, Podfans is now True Fans. Yeah. So it's like, Sam, you bastard.
It's always a timing. It's timing, time of the world. You'll do something, it'll change. That's okay.
That's all right.
The general theme there in that video, it's still stands.
No, yeah, it's still good. It's just called True Fans now. Yeah. Cool. Let's talk about bodybuilding, man. So I wanted to ask you, okay. So bodybuilding is the definition of it something like sculpting your body? Is it, trying to force your body to look a certain way? Is that like you're building your body literally? That's kind of the ethos behind it, right?
Yeah, I would say so generally.
Yeah. So there's the thing where I was like, when I first started going to the gym, so this was do I still remember the date? It was just after my birthday in 2012. 2013. Yeah, that was the first time I really started going to the gym properly. And when I started there, I actively was trying to shape my body because I had just some, it wasn't really bad, but I definitely looked at myself in the mirror. I was like, you're weak, you're scrawny, you don't look good. You're not.
And so what you mean by that is
attractive.
when you moved weight, when you were doing a pull up, when you were doing any physical movement, when you were doing any physical movement, the end side of the outcome was, this is going to grow my shoulders or my back or my taper or my chest.
Correct. So there's this video. I want to. It's part of the inspiration for today's naming. It was my
Mooscles.
My Mooscles are stronger. Have you seen this video before?
I think I have. Yeah. It is like an animated video, right?
Yeah. I won't play it. So basically, it's an animated video. It kind of looks like Roblox, if I had to describe it, but it's that old style of video game where everything's triangles. You know how everything's triangles.
Everything's polygons.
Yeah, polygons. That was the word. And so it just looks like that. And there's a guy basically like in a and he's got a kind of like Wii Sports type of face as well. He's like, my muscles are getting bigger. I'm getting stronger. And I thought that was really funny. But when I was first starting to go to the gym, I couldn't care less about getting stronger.
Right.
I did not care. All I wanted was to look better. So if I looked better and I wasn't stronger, that was totally fine for me. So that's just at least how I got into gym for the first time.
Okay.
What about you? When you first started going to the gym, what was motivation? Were you trying to sculpt your body to look a certain way, or did you want to get stronger?
Yeah, I think mine was definitely from a body composition perspective. It was all focused in the stronger. I guess I was blessed, thankfully, that I both fell in love with swimming when I was really young, and then also like forcibly went into it from my parents' perspective as well. Did a lot of swimming. Swimming builds you back quite well and just kept me lean. So when I was young, you know, like those early days of high school, I was still relatively good body composition. I would have said I had most of the structure that I see today. Obviously, I've added muscle, but I had a lot of structure then anyways.
So when you first started going, did you go and see some weights, and you were going with your friend Jimmy, I believe? And
well, no, even before that. So I guess I would say this would be the first time I ever started going to the gym was in year 11. Mm-hmm. Year 11, year 12. I think it was year 11, actually. It was the first year, which was 2007.
So that's like 16, 15-year-old.
Yes, I do remember going, I'm going to say probably 20 times to the gym in that particular year, where I would finish school. No, it wasn't the school gym. It was the gym down the road at Springwood swimming pool area. And I would walk down after school. I would do a 40-minute gym session, and then I would go home. I did that about 20 times. Again, the mentality then wouldn't have been about body composition in terms of the shape. It would have been much more about the strength, getting stronger.
Okay.
So there was that. Pulled away. Then I didn't train like that until second year of university. So what's that? 2011. Yep. And then again, getting into the gym with friends, or a group of friends. And again, it wasn't at all anything to do with body composition, shape, size. The mindset was, hey, I'm going to go in here to be stronger.
Okay.
We were training with a lot of really strong Fijian, Samoan guys who would just be ridiculously strong for the type of technique and what they used to do, or at least what I saw at that time. And so the primary goal for me was like, I want to be strong like these guys. So I would just do that for many years. And it wasn't, probably 3-4 years down the track of starting that I then transitioned into I've relatively gotten stronger than maybe the general population. There's, a lot of extra effort now that I'd have to put to go to a higher level of strength. But hey, I've not neglected, but I just haven't done more specific training like bodybuilding / body sculpting style training. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll do that. And I guess that's when I started caring more, body composition. Okay, what's the shape? What's the size? What's the width? What's the ratios? What's all of this sort of stuff that I started looking and thinking more so about.
If you didn't see any changes in your body, but you were lifting more, would that have been demotivating for you, do you think? Would you have put in less effort into it?
I don't think at the time, even when I began, I don't think so. And I can see the reasoning behind, like, if you go into the gym and, you might be like a skinny pole, or you want to gain weight, or you want to look jacked, then I could see that'd be demotivational for sure. I think it's because I went in there and there was two main factors for me saying there was, wanting to be there. One, it was fun. I was with a group of people that were just having fun. And two, it was getting stronger. We'd go in there and do bench, and you do 80 kilos for whatever. And then the next 2 weeks later, you come in and do 90 kilos. You're like, yes, this is so amazing. Yeah. That for me was the maximum thing I was trying to get out of it. It wasn't, my chest grew bigger or I'm getting bigger. That came obviously with the training, but it was never a direct consequence that I cared about. It was just indirectly something that occurred.
Yeah, very different from my experience, which was the whole reason I was in there was to look bigger. That was essentially why I was there. And I was just thinking, if I had kind of done that and I hadn't seen any results, what would I have maybe got into instead? Because we're just talking about gym here, but every sport shapes your body. True. I mean, every non-sport shapes your body. If you don't play sports, your body will get shaped in a certain way.
Yeah.
Just probably in a way that you won't particularly like, and which society might frown upon, i.e. you're going to get fat as fuck. And so this was where I was like, oh, okay, if that had happened, would I have looked at other sports and gone, okay, lifting's not doing anything for me. I knew it would because I was watching tons of YouTube videos, and I'd see, I came across one guy today, Mario Tomic. Did you ever see him? No. It's like this kind of like Eastern European guy. He's got I always remembered like he had one of those beards which like didn't fill out the fleshy part, the cheek, and it was always just like on the chin area.
Okay.
I just always remember that about him. And, he was just like a average looking dude who got strong as fuck and lean body mass, everything, like, it's bodybuilding, but not bodybuilders in the sense that you imagine like Arnold Schwarzenegger and just these absolute mammoth people. It's more like the, if he ever took steroids, it would be very minimal, that sort of deal. And I think he always said he was natural, something like that. And I was just going like, yeah, I probably would have got into something like, I don't know, rowing.
Okay.
Seeing someone like that, I think some of those people where I'd just be like, yeah, one, that would be something I'm good at. Just being tall, long limbs is good for rowing. And I would say like their width. That would kind of impress me. I'd be like, oh, damn, these guys have like big shoulders, that sort of deal. Or gymnastics, because those are like two body shapes where I look at it, I'm like, yeah, damn, that's kind of like something I'd like to emulate.
Yeah.
I don't particularly look at a rugby player and be like, damn, I want to look like him. So that was just an interesting little side point there on the bodybuilding where I was like, okay, if this didn't work, I probably would have gone to something else to try and do that. And it was kind of funny looking back, because I went, you get out really what you put in, because I made some really decent progress in that first 6 months, year, I'd say. And then it wasn't until I would say so I started in 2013, probably wasn't until about 2017 where I really stopped caring about how I actually looked, and I was doing things because I wanted to do them because they were fun. And that was when I really stopped doing weights and started getting into calisthenics and handstands. And I was really looking back and I was going, you know what? Over that whole time period, I don't think I actually got that strong. I managed to be able to get to the point where I could do a pull-up. So obviously I put on I never remember going on the scales and being like, oh, I'm so much heavier now. This must be muscle. Because I always kind of maintained a relatively lean body shape. That's just my genetics. And I still remembering, like, I didn't progress much above 60 to 7 kg bench that whole time. Just 4 years of that. Now, I did do more reps. I definitely did do more reps, and they were definitely cleaner. Yep. But I really didn't get that strong. And I just thought that was kind of funny, going like, oh, yeah, man, I had these very small body composition changes over time, but I didn't do it well. It wasn't until the 3rd or 4th year where I started going like, I probably need to eat more. The one big tip that's on all these videos, and then I just ignored because I didn't want to do. Yeah. So that was just one of the real bodybuilding things that I noticed for myself.
Well, I think body composition as well for younger individuals, and I guess this might apply for, if you're listening to this right now, it's probably too late for a lot of people, but for those you might know who are younger, or maybe you are listening to this and you're super young, I guess I feel like I lucked out with the fact that I focused on strength for the most part when I was younger, because I feel like with the strength came a lot of size or a lot of the body composition that I wanted to maybe in the end anyways. But there's a lot of research out there that I've at least listened to, haven't looked into myself, of the more strength you can do when you're younger means more bone density earlier on in your years. You basically don't get that. You can apparently build some of it as you go older towards age, but you're getting the prevailing amount, by the time you're, I think it's like 24 or 25 years old.
Yeah.
After that, it's deteriorating.
It's fucking annoying, man.
Yeah. So for me, I go, well, shit, I lucked out because I'm going to, a lot of my strength was made between the periods of 19 years old to 24, 25 years old, which looking at the studies, like, okay, hey, that's probably helped really, really quite a lot in terms of building great bone density and putting a lot of what starts happening in humanity with mere mortals. You've got to decline. You're going to have to decline. There's other things like zone 2, your VO2, endurance and endurance in general. You can continue getting good at that until you're 50s, 60s, and then you're just fighting against deterioration with age. Not so with bone density, not so with muscle mass, maturity, muscle mass density in the fibers. All of that is built really quite at a young age. And so from a body composition perspective, it's like, yes, if you're starting in later in life, it's not to say that, don't do that. Of course, you're going to get some benefits. But the meaty benefits were back at, when you're quite young in your life. And so I go, man, shit, I lucked out from a body composition perspective in that regard. Because some of the things that you can't see in these, and you probably can't really even see in a DEXA scans are good, right? But other things that I guess fall in the body composition is the variations in your actual muscles of, there's fast twitch and slow twitch fibers, and there's different types between those two. But your actual fibers and maturity of your density of your fibers can be like pretty dramatic. So if you see a really well-versed bodybuilder, sometimes some of the muscle fiber strands can be so overly built that you can actually see them with the visible eye. I think I've listened to this before where if you were to pull some of the really, really crazy overdeveloped people and pulled out a muscle fiber, you can actually see it visibly to the naked eye, that full fiber of muscle. Obviously, that's ridiculous, but there is linkages to like how dense or how powerful that particular muscle can be to generate energy to do other things. So in the day and age right now, for us, from a body composition, I guess we would care because it means we could run faster, we could jump higher, we could reach certain things. All well and good. Obviously, if we're in a performance style space arena, we're not. Right, we do things for fun. We do things because we like to progress in the fields that we're doing, but we have no indication that we're going to become world best at some sprinting, running, rowing, whatever. That's not us. That's not us. We're mere mortals. But where it does apply really quite heavily is that body composition moving into later ages, right? So I can't remember the exact number. Peter, he always talks about it. If you fall and you break your hip after 80 years old or 70 years old, there's some really high percentage, like more than 50%, that you will die within a year. That's it. Like you're basically, your mortality rate's like, you're going to die. So obviously not to the breaking of the hips, but it's, when you're older, from a body functional movement perspective, hey, if you've got really strong muscle fibers from when you were younger, which is muscle in general, you're going to be able to adapt, use balance, stabilize, and just move about in a better way when you're older. If you can at least shy away the other injuries that might come with lifting or trying to get to those heavier muscles regardless. So there's a fine balance, but body composition, I think, can get much deeper than just the percentage numbers into the, we're looking at, hey, your left arm is this and your right arm is that, and your left calf is this and your right calf is that. And that's wonderful body composition in terms of sizing and what we see. But what about the stuff that we don't see around, Goggins mode? Hey, his body composition for his knee, can't remember if it's right or left, it's that it's just bone on bone. Like, he doesn't have any cartilage left in that motherfucker. So, hey, that's probably real shit from a body composition perspective. Just living through life, it's going to suck. It's going to suck running forevermore type of deal. Yes, there's obviously certain reasons why he does this thing and whatever. I'm not hating on him. But that's, you have to be willing to be prepared that, hey, do you want that body composition, or do you want to be an 80-year-old that can kind of walk and play with the kids and not be painful? I'm like, okay, I would rather be the latter. I don't want to burst out my cartilage and have bone-on-bone problems. Yeah, that's probably not for me. So body composition, I think, can just get much deeper depending on what you're actually looking into as well.
Yeah, for sure. Just talking about the locking in gains, I'd say that's one thing that I locked in through the yoga and stretching I did, was just a really, I don't know what you'd call it, open hips and more the hips, actually, more because they've kind of stayed open. I can still have tight hamstrings from week to week, year to year basis, that sort of thing, just based on how much I'm stretching. But I can lift my legs, kind of like put my own knee over my shoulder sort of deal, and just like hang out there, and that's totally fine for me. And that's one of those things where I'm like, I don't really feel like I've earned that. It's just I maybe earned it when I was young and 20-year-old, 21-year-old, and then it's just kind of hung around, which has been nice. Yeah.
Well, and then, here's a comparison, I guess. Body composition is more so on the strength, I guess, perspective, that I'd say over the last 6 years, I think I've done targeted bench press work to kind of improve it. Maybe 6 times over 6 years. So let's say once a year. We're talking maybe 4 weeks or 6 weeks phases. So in total, maybe 24 weeks in total over 6 years that I've spent committed time in keeping or trying to improve my bench press. And there was a big period in time last year, the year before then, that I was trying to get like over double body weight bench press.
That's when you like almost tore your
that's why I was like destroyed myself. But through that, and across like the last 6 years, there's never, even when I go away from doing bench press for a while on a holiday or something, when I get back and I've warmed myself into it, the ability to hit over 140 kilogram bench is 95 percentile and higher.
Yeah,
like it's one of those that I don't think is going to go away for a really long time now that I've locked that in for a long time ago.
You're trying to think of like what circumstance would it be where this wouldn't just happen.
Exactly.
That's kind of the same for me.
Yeah.
Before we get onto the summary, there was a couple of just like random observations I had. And one of the things when the guy was giving me this, he was looking at it and he was like, "Oh yeah, your upper body is much more
unbalanced."
Unbalanced. You have more muscle in your upper body than you do in your.
I was trying to say secretly, like, why don't you do leg day?
It kind of, and then he kind of like looked at me and he was like, "Oh,
weak.
Do you do any like calisthenics or something?"
Weak legs.
And I was like, yeah, I do. And so you can pick out people's body, what they do with their body from their stats.
I'm surprised you didn't say gymnast. Why didn't you say too tall?
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. Gymnasts, they can have some pretty strong legs because especially for like the jumping and stuff, they're not.
I guess I never see their legs because they're always wearing pants or something like that.
Yeah. Calisthenics people they're more tend to the chicken legs than gymnasts, I would say.
Now, Karen doesn't have chicken legs. I would call them chicken legs.
I'm just tall.
You've got soccer legs.
Yeah,
that's what you've got. Karen's got soccer legs,
and that's probably
you
true.
See like Cristiano Ronaldo and the legs are like shredded. It's kind of like Karen's legs. Maybe not as shredded as that, but I would say he's got soccer legs.
When I'm in the gym and I'm like warming up, and I'll basically do what would you call it? A diagonal splits. So I'll chuck my leg up on like the side of a wall, or today it was on like the squat rack, and I was just basically forming like 45 degrees with my body. And I was just looking at myself in the mirror. I'm like, damn, this does look impressive just because your legs are so fucking long. Look at these things. Like they're not meaty. They aren't meaty at all.
You'd call them more like long legs than you would like meaty legs.
It's funny because I can do strong moves with them, like pistol squats and stuff like that. Are just like a breeze for me. But yeah, they're not. They're definitely underdeveloped, as the stats say.
Points out.
At least in terms of muscle mass. But I was thinking, do you think you can pick a person? You can just look at them and pick kind of what they do based on how they look. Is that a skill you think you've developed or have?
Because I don't think so. I don't think I have.
Because I think I'm starting to get much better at it, man. When I see, there's some people where it's really obvious. A chick who is really into CrossFit, you can kind of tell she's just like blocky. You're like, holy fuck, this is a blocky ass chick.
Yeah.
She must do CrossFit. It's kind of, but yeah, there's certain people where I look at nowadays and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I reckon I'd be able to pick them as a tennis player, or pick this person as a gymnast, or pick this person as a...
Yeah, I don't know.
I could be overestimating my abilities here, but...
There's some obvious ones for sure. Like the tennis thing. You can get pretty obvious with the forearm differentiation. There are some others though. So I saw a Olympian swimmer the other day at the markets. And honestly, if I'd seen her, if I didn't know exactly who she was, I would have been like, man, must be like a big gym goer, but she's kind of like a little bit flabby, got a little bit of fat, but jacked, but flat. But I was like, oh, no, actually, that's a swimmer's body. Well, swimmer's body, this is a few years since she's been in the Olympics.
Correct.
But yeah, like I guess I can tell the difference between a few of the different, but then I go, what about someone like a horseback rider? What about the difference between an equestrian at the Olympics and, racing around on an actual, Melbourne Cup style equestrian rider? So there's things like that. I'm like, I have no idea the differentiations. And some of them, I'm sure if you knew the sport really, really, really well, you might learn the body composition that it takes. Like, you might be like, oh, hey, if you do that, you've got super strong adductors because you got to hold on. I don't know.
Could be telltale things from archery, for example, of putting the bow right against your cheek and lip, and maybe you get like a graze, or there's a certain thing that happens.
Yeah, like I think you could get good at that. I personally don't think I'm fantastic at telling that difference for sure. Yeah, and I think I'm actually pretty dreadful at that.
I'm going to start up a service. Come to me and I'll guess what your thing is.
There you go. That's a terrible service.
Then you give me $20.
Karen will tell you what you train, what you look like you train. That'll be the service.
Yeah, exactly. Which does somewhat get onto some of this is, we've talked about the things that you can change, going to the gym, improving your muscle, things like this. And we're talking about the body. We weren't talking about the face, so not talking about like making yourself pretty or anything like that. But I'm rather impressed by people who almost fight their genetics. So a really big guy who does calisthenics, that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, damn, dude, you're 100 kgs. This is the realm of small Asians, and yet you're out here just just
doing your shit. Yep.
Being monster.
Same thing goes with like I would say big people doing really long ultra marathon runs.
Yeah,
What was his name that you had on the podcast a long
James
time ago?
Penny. Yeah,
James,
he's a pretty big guy. Yeah,
something like that. I'm like, man, that's hats off. Like, I know it's doing, but it's fighting the body composition of something being really big to go and do something like that.
I imagine like a small guy is good at powerlifting. Is that kind of who the best powerlifters? Are they usually smaller or
still
larger,
generally big? But I guess in the ratio perspective, yes, the smaller ones are in a bigger ratio.
Gotcha.
But like totality is more of the bigger guys.
Yeah. I think how tall is Eddie Hall? He's not that tall, is he?
He's not that tall, but I think he's like 5'10". I'll check.
Yeah, because I think he's 5'10". Most of the big like strong men, that sort of thing, like they're fucking giants. They're bigger. Thor, the dude who was on.
Eddie Hall is 1.9 meters.
Okay, so he's still pretty big. Well, maybe that's just a testament to how big some of the others were. So I thought, I swear there's some. Anyway, a strong man who's
he's 6'3".
A strong man who's 5'5". That's rather impressive.
Yeah.
And there's this short, stumpy soccer player. Shit, I forgot to look him up. He plays, I think, for the Polish national team. And or one of those type of countries, maybe it's Ireland or somewhere in Europe.
Okay, yeah.
And he looks like a rugby player. You look at the guy and you go, "Why are you playing soccer or football? This is just like you must be fighting so hard against you." And YouTube comments all the same thing. Everyone's just like, "What is this?
Of course. Yeah.
How's this guy playing like professional?" And he's obviously good at when it's at that level, you can't. I don't know, bribe your way into the team or anything like that. You have to just be good enough to get in. So he's obviously got good enough. And there's a couple of other people I've seen in just years of watching the English Premier League where it's, short, stumpy guy. It's kind of fat in a way. And yet he'll have absolute sublime touch or passing skills to be able to, or just the ability to run, in midfield just forever. He's not fast, but he can just run and run and run. I kind of like that when people fight against their genetics, and it's you're like rooting for them. You're like, you obviously don't belong in this sport, but good on you.
Seems interesting that you're in there.
Yeah. The last one was just in terms of like body issues. I always used to think, just because when I grew up, I looked at myself in the mirror and I'd be like, you're fucking weak. Like you look like shit.
Makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. But you'd always hear about how girls have a worse time of it. I now believe that's true because what I've noticed with myself is mine have just faded over time. Once I started getting a bit stronger, I'd look at myself and I'd be like, yeah, you know what? And now I do not care. If anything happens to my body, it's like, whatever. If it's in the pursuit of what I want to do, that's
fine. That's
fine.
Yep.
Yeah. But I know plenty of girls who they've like gone super strong or they're fit or pretty or whatever it is, and they still have body issues. I'm like, damn, that's harder. It's harder for them. They still have some. For them, no matter how much they've changed their body, I think there is. I'm more appreciative of perhaps the societal pressures, whatever it is.
I was gonna say. I think there would be some underlying, almost fundamental differences to the body composition conversation that is of males versus females, and obviously we're two males here, not really like we know much that in the realm of females. We've seen it, we know about it. Obviously I've got a daughter, she'll probably go through it. Relating is hard, I guess, seeing some of the experiences, but it's all about, like you were talking about, we're talking body composition, we talked bodybuilders, we talked big fat guys with powerlifting. We didn't talk about
losing
weight. We didn't talk about shit about losing weight or models
or getting the love handles from your hips.
We didn't talk about any of that because that's what we care about. But I could definitely see that a female growing up in the body composition of, hey, there's this model and that model and this model, and hey, she looks like she earns more money and is able to do these roles, or you're able to go and perform in diving or physical prowess, and it's better to this, but you also want to be looking correct in your dress outfit, and they don't make suits for like broad shoulder females. So there's all of this stuff that you don't really think about from a male perspective. So I get it that there would be differentiations, and maybe continuations of body composition issues as you go through the years. Dude, I've never stopped to think once in the last couple of years being like, man, I'm going to have to get like a new outfit. I'm going to have to get like different shirt sizes. I'm going to have to like change my... No, none of that. My body doesn't change that often anymore. It's going to remain the same for the same amount of training that I'm doing. I'm not going to get gigantic unless I'm really trying. I'm not going to lean down ridiculously unless I'm trying. So I'm just going to be able to remain the same. That's definitely not the same calling for a female. Why? Females have other things that they're fighting against, hormonally, right? There's a big thing that you have to play around with, and that changes your body composition.
Don't want to be getting down to 7.5%.
Yeah, no, don't do that. It's problematic. So there's a lot of things that I think plague females much more than males. And so I get it why body composition conversations might be easier in the male realm than it might be in the female, but yeah, we can only comment so far.
Is there any validity to the claim of being able to lose fat from a specific area in your body by doing a specific exercise?
No.
Okay. I always thought that was shit, but I never had any...
Yes. No, you cannot do that.
That just seemed like a...
That's not a thing.
Yeah.
You can activate direct muscles, obviously, with direct contractions, but general...
You can't choose where your body's going to...
general losing of weight is not a case of direct... In fact... I don't know if I can't. I'll have to actually Google this up, and people can go check this out. I don't know if it's 100% or if it's the majority, but the way that you lose weight is through your breath.
Okay,
that's how you lose weight. So if you think about it, like really,
like BS,
but think about it. How do you lose weight? AKA, how do you lose?
Like where's the energy actually?
Exactly. So sweating,
burning it off.
That's water. Yeah. That's water weight. That's not actual fat off your body.
Well, your body gets warmer, right? So
true, and
so the sweat is to cool down your body. So
true, but your body will want to maintain a pretty even keel of water. So you'll kind of maintain that water, but it's not like you're evaporating the fat away. It's not so much that. I believe, they call me excited, I'm not a scientist for this. I'm fairly certain though it's through your breath, aka it's carbon dioxide that you expel out. That in the process of the system going through, energy. Okay. That is being dissipated. So it's energy being used up as it's not chemical energy in your body. So
it's not heat from your breath. It's the actual process.
Correct, right? It's like, chemical energy of your food or your fat being utilized in lipolysis and whatever else. That energy at the end of the chain gets processed into carbon dioxide. That's you breathing.
Yeah.
Why? Because actually, I think it was a study. I'll have to look this up as well. They said, well, could you just... breathe a lot harder like that, breathe. You would actually lose more weight if you were to do that. Obviously, no one's going to do that, but you would actually lose a little bit more weight if you were to do that.
Yeah, interesting.
However, to do that process of more carbon dioxide expulsion, things like training and doing movement encourages the generation of energy to transform that whatever you're consuming or your own body into the body composition that you want. But look that up. Definitely, that's an interesting fact.
Yeah,
but look
up
all the details if you want to actually look it up.
All right. Let's get into the summary. So my summary here was, what's your reason for wanting to change? Mine was pretty weak until it faded to nothing. So, it's, I remember I'd look in the mirror and after like 6 months, it'd be like, probably even earlier. I think the earliest I remember was after 3 months, I started to see like the minorest of changes to my body. And I'm like, oh my God, like, look, it's happening. It's working. Just imagine what you could look like in another 3 months' time. And I'd just always double it.
Yep.
So then I'd get to 6 months and be like, happy with myself, but still kind of looking weak and being like, oh, just imagine what you look like in a year's time in like another 6 months. And I remember doing that consistently, probably until I got to, around that 4 year period and really like, imagine what I look like after 8 years of doing this. And my reason for wanting to do that obviously changed, and it would have been unsustainable because I didn't actually really enjoy lifting weights. I never really got that much pleasure. I didn't have good friends like you did. I'd always have to do it at weird times just due to my job, which was the bulk of when I was training. So it'd be like really late at night, as in like 9 p.m. after work, and I'd just eaten, so I'd feel like super bloated and all of this sort of stuff. And so I think your reason for wanting to change your body, that's probably also going to change over time. And it could just disappear like mine has and like Juan never had. Is it worth it? I think it was worth experimenting, like trying to get slim, trying to get big. As I mentioned, like I had some it's funny because in all those graphs, it doesn't look like I've changed much. And I was saying, even with the genetics, man, it kind of looks like nothing much has happened over time. But I suppose the cool thing is if you jump right into this one here, which is my waist measurements, and just looking at that, that's where you can see, oh, okay, actually, I have had some pretty wild changes over that time. You just have to zoom in and use the correct scale. So when I got down to that really low body fat percentage, and if I'm 7.5 now, I would have said I was getting down into like the 6 range or something like that. I don't know. It was awful. Don't do that, people. It's, sex drive dissipates into nothing. Correct. Feel like shit. You probably got to a similar range, right? It's just not a fun place to be in.
It is not.
I don't know. I don't even think you really look that better. Like you kind of look.
Yeah, general population, what you want, I think, is more around, honestly, 9%, 10%. I think you're gonna have a good range, balance. Yeah. Yep.
And so if you're trying to attempt like rapid transformations and all of this as well, you probably just make yourself sick. And so that's where it's, even though I had those charts showing, nothing really much has changed over time, they kind of have. It's just really, really slow changes, really slow. And so it doesn't look like much has changed over time. But I do think encouraging people to experiment, trying to change, see if you can get a little bit bigger. We didn't talk about nutrition today, which is a large part of being able to change your body. But I think it's worthwhile seeing like, oh, can I like make my legs bigger? If I eat like this, what will happen to my body?
Yeah, of course.
Those sorts of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, look, for me, body composition, but just in general, and something I keep saying, I feel like it's my word for 2023. It is what you optimize for.
Optimizing for.
Now, I'll give you an example. There is one of the best Olympic lifters right now in the heavyweight division, right? Dude's got a massive belly. He looks big. You wouldn't call him jacked. He just looks big, like a big human. Dude's fucking amazing, smashing the world record on clean jerk and snatching. Fucking amazing. He's optimizing for being big and strong and being able to lift really, really well. He's not optimizing to look like he's completely jacked, like his muscles are ripped, like he's going to be shredded. He's not looking like that at all. I think body composition, as much as you can, and this, I guess, would apply both males and females, should try to aim to what is it that you're optimizing for. And generally, largely, you're not aiming for I want percentage here of this, I want centimeters of this on my left arm compared to the right arm. Yes, if you're doing bodybuilding, I guess, in particular, maybe in things like diving or a sport where you need to be symmetrical to maybe help out the like in diving, the position of when you go into the water, or it helps in some way, shape or form to gymnastics. I'm not sure. Okay, maybe you pay attention to that. But largely, I can't really think too many places where body composition from a percentage shape matters, as opposed to the body composition that you need to optimize for a particular thing.
Yeah, it's the object or activity is shaping the body rather than...
Correct.
Exactly. It's not like javelin people like, I need to get really big arms to be able to, so then I can throw the thing really far.
It's the opposite.
It's like, no, I'm going to practice throwing the thing really far.
And that's going to ensue the fact that my arm's going to get bigger. Just something like that. With tennis players, whatever the dominant hand is, you're going to see that the forearm is jacked in comparison to the other arm. They're not... I'm going to get a really good forearm. I'm going to be a good tennis player. No, it's just...
Like you see like a baby come out and they're like jacked in one arm. You're like, oh shit.
Going to be a good tennis player.
Tennis player here.
So, in saying that, I think that optimize more so for the performance or the thing that you're actually caring about versus the actual body composition, unless it's very directly related, which very few percentage of the population really going to be actively looking at that. And then, ultimately from a body composition, I think be prepared that you're going to live in the paradoxical world that we live in the mere mortals, which is you will have a conflicting view of body composition at some point in your life. This will happen. If you haven't hit it yet, it will happen. Be ready for it. What do I mean by that is, as you grow up, either you were into fitness or you were not into fitness. At some point, whichever path you are, you're going to reach actually my body composition should be this for this other reason. So whatever the reason is, at least I'm talking about the people who are conscious about body composition, because you could be a fat fuck for the whole of your life and not care about it. Sorry, I'm not talking to you.
It's really funny seeing really successful people at a certain venture. Usually they're more intellectual type ones, so like scientists or financial traders or something like this, and you see them on podcasts, and they'll like be excited to talk about their recent gym activities, and they're just realizing, oh, you know, you can change things, you can feel better.
Jeff Bezos went on to Lex Friedman's podcast. I haven't listened to it, but I watched a little clip, and they were talking about like gymming. Tom Bilyeu talks about the same thing, although he started training a long time ago. Others who are like really getting into the gym stuff. I feel like everybody in some way, they kind of flex back and forth. Everyone realizes at some point that conversation of body composition. Yeah,
it's more the health, I think, aspect rather than looking better. But
yeah. And so I guess what I'm saying is like there's always going to be a conversation of like, oh, my body is looking, you know, for me, I went from a perspective of our strength to, there was some aspects of like, oh, I want to make sure it looks like this, whatever, to then fluctuating again now and being like, okay, I don't care because I just want to train in this particular way that I'm doing it. And yes, that will ensue to have a good body composition. But who cares if it wasn't? I'm just really enjoying this particular thing. Yeah. So, yep. Optimize.
That's it. And you know, sometimes you get lucky. The podcasting 2.0 guys that have big guns. So
that's right. Yeah. So I've obviously not seen many other humans on this earth, but we're just talking about Karen's lanky features.
Yeah, it's always funny when people will say something about that. Like about me, because I'm just like, I always compare myself to you. Like it's, you know, we're always here, so it's just always like, if you think I'm big, like
there's a lot of other big humans in this world.
There's one that's like right in here all the time.
Me and Mortal Wrathful, that has been Musings today. Once again, we go live.
Live 7 p.m. On a Wednesday, Australian Eastern Standard Time. So my value for value call out today is like, we want to see your body compositions, especially naked. So you can send them to Juan at Granado.
Send it to the wrong guy. Just send it directly to him. Don't even worry about it.
At getalbi.com.
I want to see the body composition directly for you folks. But no,
we'd love to hear some stories of how you've changed your body over time.
That'd be good. Really cool. Yep. Boostagram, obviously going to be the best way. If you send that through with some Satoshi attached, comment with sats. We talked about it. Obviously, the Boostagram Lounge. You can send through some support. Go to beimmortalspodcast.com/support if you want to see how you can also do that. We love obviously seeing that. We're talking about right now body composition. We've talked about plenty of other things. Make sure you're submitting in some Boostagrams. We call it out 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Live on the podcast.
Even some topics that perhaps you'd like. Any of those things. And we also do appreciate just any social interactions as well. So if you want to reach out join the Discord. We're chatting in there somewhat. It's not super strong, but
it's not all the time. Look, if more people were in there though, chatting, we'll be chatting too. Yeah. Sometimes it's not a lot to chat from our perspective, so that's just what it is.
It's more just like week updates of interesting things during the week.
Exactly.
Like that.
Do we want to call out what we're going to be talking about next Wednesday as well?
I was thinking it'd be good to do that one more week after. So if you've got a topic you'd like to talk about,
don't have it right now.
Instead,
don't have it right now. But we'll think of one.
If you join the Discord, you'll see it during the week.
Exactly. More lights, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining once again for the Musings body composition conversation. For now, for those who all tuned in live and for those who are tuning in later, we got a couple of comments.
Yeah, we did just have Faraz. Sorry, I should have checked
this. You got it there just in time, mate.
And so he was saying, I've got all these emojis in my way and got to get out. What would you recommend better for aesthetics, calisthenics, or bodybuilding?
For aesthetics.
Those aesthetics, bro.
Easy. Upper body. I think calisthenics going to come quicker. Lower body, bodybuilding.
Okay, that's good. So do both. And also, would you guys recommend? There's emojis in the way. That's really annoying. I'm sorry for us. I'm going to have to jump onto the actual live stream itself to be able to see that. He had another question related to. How'd you do it? Well, anyway, I got it. Also, would you guys recommend creatine for a beginner, intermediate gym goer, and how much quantity, if yes, and the timings, that sort of thing? One, you can
5 grams, load up with yes. Would you guys recommend creatine? Yes, definitely. You find creatine in your food as well, things like steak and stuff like that.
I've never had it.
Creatine, you normally want to load it into your actual bloodstream. So, you want to take a lot more at the beginning, 5 grams, 10 grams, 15 grams, take it for a couple of days, loads into the bloodstream. Then you can dose down, aka have it at 5 grams because you already have it in your bloodstream floating around. And then just keep it up from there. You don't really have to face off.
A week?
5 grams a day.
Like a daily?
5 grams a day.
Okay.
Weekly, keep it going. Just take it for as long as you can remember to do it.
There we go. Last little interaction there. Thank you for us. Much appreciated.
There you go. Get in line, folks, because you can ask their questions.
Exactly.
Sometimes get to them.
Can learn how to look like Juan.
Exactly. Memo lights. Thank you very much. Juan out.
Karen out.
Good.
Bye.
Strong.
Strong.
Strong.